Yeah, so say there's sections which Rupa Goswami decided: eastern section, southern section, western section, and northern section.
Yeah.
Okay, and within the eastern section, which is the part of our Bhakti Shastri, okay, with 19 chapters, only comes under the eastern section. You can see in this bookmarks what I'm showing here. We covered the first part, which was the Samanya Bhakti. What was the Samanya Bhakti? What did we talk in this section? Does anybody remember what was the in the Samanya Bhakti?
With expecting something and doing,
Sorry, Prabhu.
expecting something from the God or
Yeah, yeah. So in the Samanya Bhakti, actually, there was a definition of Bhakti. There was a definition of the pure Bhakti. This was the introduction and the chapter one. Okay, and then from chapter 2 to chapter 14, we covered the Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, so this is how we are, and we went over the all the 64 limbs which Rupa Goswami talked about in summary and then in detail. Okay, so that was the section 2. Section 3 is now we are entering into the Raganuga. Okay, and I know most of you are aware of Raganuga, so I would just like to get some understanding when you when we hear about the Raganuga Bhakti. Um, what do you know? So if I can ask each of you to share your thought on that, that will be very helpful. In your mind, what is Raganuga Bhakti?
Spontaneous loving service to the Lord.
Okay, and what does it mean? What does the spontaneous loving service to the Lord really means?
It means that you're not needed. You're not needing to do the strict practices of Vedic Bhakti because it's a natural propensity of yours, like a mother taking care of their child, or husband and wife, or anybody who's in a reciprocal relationship. um
Okay, okay, very good. Anybody would like to contribute to what Mataji has shared?
Loving modes of residence of Vrindavan, Prabhuji.
Loving mode of resident of Vrindavan. All right, okay, very good addition. What else? Anything else?
I mean, whatever sadhana bhakti that is people, the devotees are doing, and in Raganuga Bhakti they do it more emotionally connected, uh, and that emotion which is quite spontaneous, and uh, and they will have some kind of preamble of what bhava they would say, like in one example where we're reading, where there is Sakhya or Shanta, so or Vatsalya, so they'll have some one kind of emotional connect.
Okay, okay. So you are bringing that there are there is deep rooted emotions, and then you're talking about the different kind of emotions with the different mood which may happen. All right. Okay. Any final comment? Cool. So see, you are all on the right path. Okay. Um, what we are going to go is um, we'll go a little deeper into definition also today, and we are going to bring two terms, Ragatmika and Raganuga, and we will see what is the difference, what does the Ragatmika mean. So we'll going into a little deeper detail. We'll also try to see the practical aspect as we are going in there. All right. So with that, let me reshare my screen. Okay. So here today I am starting with the waves of devotion. So quickly we'll just cover the landscape, what we will be covering. Okay. So Ragatmika Bhakti, Raganuga sadhana is a devotional practice that strives to cultivate the moods of Krishna's associate in Vrindavan. So see the emphasis, moods of Krishna's associates in Vrindavan. Thus, before describing Raga Nuga Sadhana, we must first describe the moods of devotional attachment found in Vrindavan's eternal residents. Okay, when you say that associate in Vrindavan, then what is their mood? Okay, let's try to understand. Okay, so that's what is. Nectar of Devotion uses the term Raga Nuga to denote the devotional attachment of Vrindavan resident. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, however, Srila Prabhupada directly translated the corresponding text from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and therein reveals the correct term to be Ragatmika. So there is a discrepancy, is telling that just okay, Ragatmika. Okay. A Ragatmika Bhakta embodies the perfection of spontaneous love for Krishna. And a Raganuga Bhakta follows in the wake of the perfect devotees, earnestly endeavoring to achieve their perfect mood of spontaneous love. So this is the crux, okay, the between the two terms. So can anybody try to explain in your own words what do you understand by this sentence? If you really followed what these sentences are saying. In other words, I'm asking if you understood these highlighted.
So, Prabhuji, I think Ragatmika is when the elevated soul who already is perfecting the spontaneous love for Krishna, and Raganuga Bhakta is who is following those perfect devotees to gain that particular mood of love,
Very
spontaneous.
good. Very good, Mataji. Very good. So that's the meaning. So the perfect devotees of the Lord who are Brajavasi, they are called Ragatmika Bhakta. Right? So these bhaktas, they are eternal associate of the Lord. Right? So they are called Ragatmika Bhakta. Now, depending on a devotee and their mood, they start following one of the Ragatmika Bhakta as their role model. So um, let's say Bri Mataji really starts following. She likes Yashoda how the all the motherly loves, motherly gopis they are tending um, uh, to Krishna, right? So and so as the devotions of Bri Mataji is progressing and she's at one certain stage, that will become very natural for her to always, like, she's doesn't matter where she is, she's always thinking of Krishna. She's always thinking how a mother would, the biological mother of a child would think, right? In terms of where is Krishna, has he eaten something, oh he's gone to tend to the cows. So you are the devotee, in this case Bri Mataji is in that mood. So she will be called Raganuga Bhakta, who is in the mood of maternal love, right? She is trying to serve Krishna. So that's the platform. That's how the Ragatmika. So Ragatmika Bhakta is Yashodama, Raganuga Bhakta, who is trying to follow that Ragatmika Bhakta is called that Raganuga Bhakta. Okay, so that's what it is telling. These are two technical terms. This is important because sometimes these terms will be used, that Ragatmika, sometimes Raganuga. So just knowing that differentiation is very important. Devotional service in spontaneous love is vividly expressed and manifested by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Devotional service that accords with their devotional service is called Raganuga Bhakti, or devotional service following in the wake of spontaneous loving service. So right now, What is our spontaneous nature for majority of us? What is our spontaneous nature?
To serve ourselves.
Exactly. Very good point. So and that's what we call as lust, right? So when we try to serve ourselves, which is lust, now we are moving from there. Like, so it is unconscious love, what we have for the material things and ourself. From there, we are going to be moving towards the unconscious love we will have for Krishna, the spiritual world. But that path is from unconscious awareness to the conscious, which is the sadhana bhakti, where we are trying to consciously we are trying to practice love for Krishna, even though we don't have a spontaneous. And by practicing that in a consistent way, and by the blessing of Guru and Krishna, Krishna includes Radharani also, by their divine blessings, the devotee will start unconsciously, they will develop so much of a taste that unconsciously they will start loving Krishna. Okay, so that's when we, the one, would we say that one is following the Raganuga. Okay, so the training is through the Shastra, and then the Shastra, the Raganuga Bhakta will also love Shastra, but the training is so much of there that it is not the primary guide. The guide is our love, for the spontaneous love. Okay, so there are Chaitanya Charitamrita talks about, um, goes deeper into this, and those are the references which has been provided here. When one becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his natural inclination to love is fully absorbed in thoughts of the Lord. That is called transcendental attachment, and devotional service according to that attachment is called Ragatmika, or spontaneous devotional service. Further, Chaitanya Charitamrita, thus devotional service which consists of raga, deep attachment, is called Ragatmika, spontaneous loving service. If a devotee covets such a position, he is considered to be the most fortunate. So, so literally Ragatmika means one whose very essence, very nice, Atma, is intense attachment for Krishna, Raga. So that's how the Ragatmika, from the Sanskrit way it is being described, is very essence, which is our Atma. There's nothing, right? So the purity, right? There's no, the purity is only at the Atma level, and from there is the intense attachment for Krishna. Raga also means color. Wearing red colored eyeglasses causes one to see red everywhere. Similarly, when one has an extremely intense attachment, he sees the object of his obsession everywhere all the time. The passion of this world are only weak and perverted reflection. Real raga is the passionate obsession with pleasing Lord Krishna. So see, there is an obsession. So in the case of Ragatmika, there is also obsession, and that's what is. I think it will be hearing about the world called greed. Okay, the intense greed for Krishna. So right now we have intense greed for ourselves, or we are trying to grow, right? So as a devotee practitioner, that's where, so I can talk about myself in this case, right? On the surface, from the external, it seems that, oh, I'm a good devotee, but inside nobody knows my desire other than me, right? Oh, these are the desires. And if if I can see that I'm not able to remember Krishna all the time, it means I'm remembering something else. That itself is a very good proof that I am on the material platform. Otherwise, I would be remembering Krishna all the time. I'll be missing Krishna all the time. I may not be able to speak about Krishna without crying, because I would be missing Krishna so much. Because that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling. That's what he said. So I know for sure that I have a long path to go. So similarly, right? So the goal, but I know that what the symptom will look like. There will be intense greed in my heart, right? In so much of a so that I cannot live without that greed of seeing Krishna, hearing about Krishna, feeling about Krishna. Okay, so two types of okay, now further going to talk about there are two types of Ragatmika Bhaktis. So one is called Kama Rupa, which is sensual attraction, and Sambandha Rupa, relationship. Kama Rupa consists of devotees with intense desires to satisfy the Lord in conjugal love. Sambandha Rupa consists of devotees with intense desire to satisfy the Lord as his parent, friend, or intimate servant. So, so of all the different types, five different primary rasa, you know that the conjugal love, right, that forms in the Kama Rupa, rest everything comes into the Sambandha Rupa. And not the neutral one, because there is no relationship is a neutral one, right? So those three: parental, friendship, and the servant, intimate servant. Okay, so further it quotes from the Srimad Bhagavatam: my dear King Yudhishthira, the Gopis by their lusty desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. And this verse was also we had talked during introduction, I think. Okay. Inimical emotions recommended. So this we have already talked that in, based on the pure bhakti principle, inimical emotions are not recommended. It has to be favorable for Krishna. And categories of Ragatmika Bhakti. This text confirms Srila Rupa Goswami division of Ragatmika Bhakti into two categories, Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Narada mentions 6 different moods of spontaneous emotional attachment to the Lord, but only 2 of these are genuine types of spontaneous devotion. The 6 moods mentioned by Narada are lusty desire in the Gopis, fear in Kamsa, envy in Shishupal and other kings of Chaitya, kinships in Vrishnis or the Yadavas, affections in the Pandavas, devotional service in Narada. So clearly, fear and envies are not genuine forms of spontaneous devotion. Srila Prabhupada says the attraction of Kamsa to Krishna in fear and attraction of Shishupal in envy are not accepted as devotional service. However, because their attitude is not favorable. So they had the same intensity. So why Narada Muni is mentioning? There is so much of intensity to remember somebody. So one can remember somebody in hatred and envy, right? And out of fear also, I'm always thinking that I'm going to get killed, right? So I may be thinking about somebody who's going to kill me. So those are not accounted in this devotional service in Narada. Narada attachment to Krishna is called bhakta. Jiva Goswami explained that the Sanskrit verb tense used here indicate that Narada devotional service arises from a sense of duty. Thus, it is Vaidhi bhakti and cannot be counted amongst the genuine forms of Ragatmika Bhakti. Affection. The affection of the Pandavas may or may not be Ragatmika Bhakti, depending on whether or not it is mixed with awe and reverence. Generally, it is mixed with a mood of reverence, which introduces restraint of formal etiquette that hinder Ragatmika Bhakti. However, when this reverence sometimes subsides, their affection can be Ragatmika Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada explains again, he analyzes the affection of the Yadus. If it is on the platform of friendship, then it is a spontaneous love. But if it is on the platform of a regulative principle, then it is not. So, see, very good analysis that if somebody asked the question, was Pandavas uh, were at the Ragatmika Bhakti platform, then how to think about it, right? Of course, see, Pandavas are considered eternal associate. So there is no doubt that they are, but it is also to understand that in the whole Mahabharata story, there are many times they are thinking of Krishna with a lot of reverential, and that's the reason they are not considered to be amongst the gopis or the gopas, right? So their love is slightly different from the Vrajavasi gopis and gopas. Lusty desire and kinship. 4 of the 6 type of attachment: fear, envy, respectful affection, and obedient devotion have been excluded from Ragatmika Bhakti. Only the remaining two, lusty desire, Kamarupa, and familial relationship, Sambandharupa, are genuine types of Ragatmika Bhakti. This confirms Srila Rupa Goswami's analysis. All right, so distinguishing mundane karma from transcendental karma, we talked about.
So,
Yes, Prabhuji.
in the above six, Prabhu, yeah, we already discussed. The familial means so Sakiras also will not come, Prabhu, here.
No, no, no.
Of course, it's not.
No, no, Sakhyaras. So in Sambandharupa, you saw there are three Sakhyaras, Dasyaras, which intimacy, Dasyaras with intimacy, and Vatsalyaras.
But they, whatever the examples were given for friendship here, those are like friendship with reverence or respect
So
only, right? Yeah.
yes, no. So it is trying to, it is bringing the Pandavas case to distinguish that not all kind of friendly relationship can be considered a ragatmika, and that's where it's telling that if the relationship is mixed with reverential feelings, then it's not called ragatmika. So because then that creates the hindrance of one establishing the relationship where one is truly a sakha of Krishna. Because if if I'm thinking somebody is really great, I cannot really ever feel that I can really pull Krishna's dhoti, or I can climb on Krishna's on over Krishna. So nobody
Like
can
friends
do
of
that.
Vrindavan is different from friends outside.
Fri- Friends of Dwarika. So friends of
Yeah.
Vrindavan are different than friends of Dwarika. Okay.
So in the case familial also, Prabhu,
Yes.
so then it will be different, right, Prabhu? So familial also.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Dwarka and
Absolutely.
Vrindavan.
Absolutely. That's the reason you see Yashoda Maya. And so, of course, Yashoda Maya and Devaki Maya, they are both mothers, right? But if you see, compare between the Yashoda Maya, Rohini Maya, and Devaki Maya, however, Acharyas take who is the topmost Maya, and then, right, the relative things. They're all Mayas, but who is they're all mothers. Sorry, I'm using the word. The Brajvasi word. So Maya means mother. Okay, so they're all three mothers, but the Mother Yashoda, she is considered to be the biggest mother in terms of her affection, her love. That she knew everything. Like Krishna showed him his um, uh, his in the past time, the whole universe in his little mouth, right? Still, and she think, oh, that's not. He is my son. I don't really care, right? So that's the kind of. But while Devaki Ma, she of course considered Krishna to be her son, but there was little reverence, and of course there is Ashwarya. There were Ashwarya also involved there. So even though she's mother, she's considered to be from the intensity of the relationship. Yashoda Ma is considered to be higher than the Devaki Ma. So first, what
Yeah.
the Acharya says, Yashoda Ma, Rohini Ma, and then Devaki Ma, in that order.
Right, Prabhu. Good to hear, Prabhu. Like my one question, Prabhu. So if that is the case, then that familial also should not come in that category, right, Prabhu?
No, so it's the mood. So it's there, but it is the mood, in what mood somebody is doing, right? So
Okay.
yeah. So typically, see why in the friendship, the friend. So between the friendship, why the example of the uh, motherly love is not directly mentioned here, right? You see that when we have the friendship, there can be friendship because one is considering somebody with a lot of um, reverence, right? But so there can be still a friendship, right? There can be friendship
Yes.
between but in the motherly love or the parental love, that reverence, the chance of having that reverence is pretty
Yes.
low consider. So that's the reason you see it is more, is there more chances of it getting mixed in the friendship rather than in the
Okay. Family.
motherly love.
Got it.
Yes, Prabhuji. Okay, and then
Prabhuji, quick question. So,
yes, ma'am.
what would be the example for the dasya in if we are considering this like?
Yes, Mataji. So again, so I was actually just it happened. See how Krishna does it. Today I was hearing my Guru Maharaj, and he's talking about the discussion between Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay, and you remember that instance where some of you may know about this instance when they meet, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu start asking, okay, tell me what is the ultimate purpose of life, right? And then and then Ramananda Rai says that, my dear Lord, I don't know anything, but because you are asking me, I will speak whatever you will make me speak. Okay, so that's how the context starts. And the first thing he says that Varnashrama, and then Varnashrama, that we should all follow our duty, and that's the ultimate purpose. And then he quotes the verse from Bhagavatam, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Aho bhagya, bhaya, aho bhaya means it is external. Okay, it is
Sure.
external. Okay, so and then the next, so then it is the next, it says that okay, something where we uh, we the one works for Krishna and offer everything to Krishna. That 9.27 words, right? Yat karoshi, yat
Yes,
asnashi, right?
yes.
Yat karoshi. So there, right? Do everything for the Krishna. I said, okay, that's also external. Okay, then okay, so now it keeps going. Okay, then it goes, it talks about the verse, then it goes to the next level. He says that okay, when one becomes very knowledgeable, jnani. Okay, one becomes very knowledgeable, jnani, and then from there one understand that the ultimate purpose is Paramatma, the super soul, right? And this is the verse 18.54, which is what is that? Brahm, no, no, not Brahmati. Um, okay, so that's where that once anybody gets through the Brahman platform, through the knowledge, once get to the Brahman platform, then one start knows that this material world is futile, and that's where they are, right? So that also, so that's then
Brahmabhuta
again,
Prasanna.
yeah, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma, na sochati na kashati. Thank you, Prabhu. He says that okay, no, that's also external. Okay, so now see all those things Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying is external. So see the bar, right? So next Ramananda Roy talks about the spontaneous love. And he said the spontaneous love. Then Krishna says, okay, okay, tell me a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more. Then Ramananda Roy talks about the servitude. And see, to come to this, I have to tell the whole story. He says that to the servitude where the intensity for the master to serve is a lot, right? So where see how, and this really gave me a little opening that why servitorship becomes a ragatmika, right? Because servant can work for a master out of fear, out of respect, or somebody is, of course, getting paid thing is like, okay, we know that's a material thing, but if let's say somebody is not getting paid, it's still out of respect. But when the intensity is so high that the servant is not, he or she is not being told, the servant is thinking what my master needs. The intensity is so high, and they know the master, right? And that's the reason we'll see in Mahabharata also many times the some of the for example Sanjaya, right? He became almost, even though he was the servant of Dhritarashtra, he almost became a friend because he served him in that way, right? So when the intensity of the servitude is higher, that's the time it becomes Ragatmika Bhakti. Okay,
Even
so that
Hanuman
is
Prabhu.
Hanumanji, Ragatmika Bhaktas. Very good example, right? So that's the answer to your question, Mataji. And of course, to complete the story, from their servitude, then Ramananda Rai goes to the um, friendship, and then from there to motherly love, and then to the uh, uh, to the conjugal love, and yeah, and within the conjugal love also the separation, right? But okay, this is not the, we will go little later. There is a separation, but these are the ladder, and this is wonderful. If you just go and read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not a good narrator, so if you read it, you'll find it more relishment.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So evidence for the purity of spiritual lust, kama lust. Okay, let me read this. Spiritual relationships are never lusty or selfish. When Srila Rupa Goswami says that Krishna's relationship with the gopi is lusty, he uses the word in a figurative sense only to aid our basic understanding. Srila Prabhupada explains the gopis' aesthetic love for Krishna is sometimes described by scholars as being like the lusty desire of the material world. But actually, this should not be taken as a literal fact. It is simply a way of trying to understand the transcendental situation. The gopis are consumed and obsessed by a passion to satisfy Krishna, the force of which is beyond our ability to comprehend. By comparing it to the mundane lust, the single most consuming and overwhelming urge in our experience, we may catch the slightest hint of the intensity in the gopis' desire to serve Krishna. So I suppose this must have answered your question why the word, even the kama rupa, if you understand the word Sanskrit, kama is considered to be the lusty desire. That's how colloquial many times we say, like even the four purusartha, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The kama means desire, right? Material desire, and kama is considered to be the lusty desire. So, but you see why the word is used, so that we can understand the intensity. Otherwise, how to understand what kind of intensity is being talked about here, right? So the our lusty desire for material enjoyment, that attraction, that intensity of attraction compared to the attraction of greed for Krishna is only partial. Though even the attraction what we have for the material things, the intensity is so high on the spiritual platform that it says that is only the fraction what we have on the material. But at least we understand what kind of affection and love it is being taught. It is being talked here, right? So that's the intensity, and that's the reason. So it's a very good explanation which answers some of the question. So we must very carefully understand that Krishna conjugal love affairs are impeccably transcendental. Externally, they may resemble mundane lust, but internally, they are motivated exclusively by pure, selfless prema. As evidence of the gopis' transcendental purity, Srila Rupa Goswami cites the great devotee Uddhava. Although completely free from all attraction to mundane love affairs, Uddhava glorified the gopis' love for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada adds the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the strict sannyasi who also praised the gopis' love of Krishna. If the gopis were affected by mundane sex desire, these two stalwart personality would never praise them. So this is the other, right? Whenever we argue from the positive side, and then we argue from the negative side. This is the negative side argument that, okay, if you think lusty, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so impeccably pure, who never even looked at the women, and even his servant, if he looked at the women, he really banished him. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling that gopis are the best, right? And then Uddhava, when he goes to the when he was sent to go and pacify the gopi, he himself think, "Whoa, what kind of affection and love they have," right? So that's given as a counter proof that even those two big personalities, the biggest lover of Krishna, they are also talking about the loves of gopis as being the highest. So they wouldn't recommend anything material. Okay, so transcendental kama mixed with mundane kama. To further highlight the exalted purity of the gopis' love for Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions Kubja, whose attraction to Krishna was not as pure as the gopis. The selfish desire that slightly tinged her attraction excluded her from the category of kama rupa and relegated her to the lesser status of kama praya, almost lusty desire. So even though Krishna satisfied her because she had so much of intensity, she is not considered as a Kamarupa because a Kubja wanted to enjoy little bit for herself, for her own sake. Okay, so this is the good summary. I thought that this will now when we go and read it, it will be easier to understand. Okay, so there are 27 verses. Okay, from 270. All right. Preeti Mataji, go ahead.
Sure, Prabhu. Translation. Raganuga Bhakti is defined as that bhakti which follows after the Ragatmika Bhakti found distinctively in the inhabitants of Raja. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura's commentary. That is called Raganuga Bhakti, which follows after the Ragatmika Bhakti, which manifests Brajantim distinctively Abhivyaktam in the inhabitants of Raja.
Keep going, Mataji.
Translation. In order to define Raganuga Bhakti, first Raganuga Bhakti should be discussed. Raga,
Ragatmika.
oh, sorry, Prabhu. First Ragatmika Bhakti should be discussed. Translation. Raga is defined as spontaneous, deep thirst for the object of love. Bhakti that is impelled exclusively by such a thirst. Sorry, Prabhu, one second. Um, Bhakti that is impelled exclusively by such a thirst is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Jeev Goswami's commentary. Ishte refers to the person towards whom one has loving sentiments. Swarasiki means natural or spontaneous. Vishtata, extremely engrossment, actually means thirst intrinsic to prema, which is the cause of being engrossed. Thus, raga is defined as spontaneous, intense thirst for one's object of love. The cause, the love thirst, is considered non different from the effect, deep absorption, because of its extreme strong connection as the cause. It is similar to saying life is ghee. Ghee is the cause of long life, but is spoken of as its equivalent to show the importance of ghee as a cause. Thus, by mentioning the effect absorption, one should infer the cause, thirst for the object of love. This fact should be considered in other verses also. Tanmayi, composed only of that thirst, means what is impelled only by that thirst. This follows from the rule Tat Prakrita Vachane Mayat. The feminine affix Mai is added after a word in the first case with the meaning of made of. Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. I just hold on. I'm just thinking. I think this is again technical. You can skip that and yeah,
Okay,
273.
sure. Translation. There are two types of Ragatmika Bhakti, that impelled by conjugal feelings, Kamarupa, and that impelled by other relationships, Sambandharupa. Kamarupa, Jiv Goswami's commentary. Kamarupa means that bhakti which is typified, rupayate, or impelled by conjugal feelings, kama, a particular type of thirst. Sambandha Rupa means that bhakti undertaken or impelled by thirst caused by relationship. Though Kamarupa Bhakti is a type of relationship, it is labeled separately since it is the chief relationship. It is similar to saying, everyone is coming and the king also is coming. Though the word everyone includes the king, special mention is made of the king because of his importance.
So you understand. So sorry. That today I'm not asking. Okay, what is the takeaway? Because we have read through the waves of devotion, right? So I assume so far Is everybody is following what has been said? Or let me ask, like, what are the key points of the last 4 verses? What do we get?
Simply defining what is Ragatmika and Raganuga and the difference between them.
Very good. Okay, so it is started with the definition, and then it's try to differentiate what is the difference between Ragatmika and Raganuga. Okay, so that we covered. What else?
To start with Ragatmika, so what makes Ragatmika is like they are defining Ragatmika like having the thirst in the relationship, and now we are discussing the different categories of the
Yeah,
Ragatmika.
type of Raganuga and Ragatmika, and what are the 2 types?
So Kamarupa, other
And
as Sambandha.
Sambandha Rupa. And then the Jiva, what the Jiva Goswami commentary is telling. So see, Jiva Goswami commentary is telling that in a way, Kama Rupa is also relationship. Like a Sambandha Rupa, right? Sambandha Rupa is relationship. So Kama Rupa is also relationship. Why then is a separate type as a Kama Rupa? And that for that, Jiva Goswami is giving an example that yes, king is included in everyone, but because king is so special, that a special mention is mentioned. Oh, everyone is coming along with the king, right? So similarly, from that, using that analogy, is telling that even the Kamarupa is a relationship, but it is has a special, such a special level, means at that pinnacle, that is specifically mentioned as a Kamarupa. Okay, separate category. So that's what Jiva Goswami commentary further talks about. Okay, Bri Mataji.
Translation. These 2 types of Ragamika Bhakti are illustrated in the 7th canto. Just as Vedi Bhakti, one can attain one's spiritual goals, many persons have attained suitable forms according to their type of absorption. After absorbing their minds in the Lord out of lust, hatred, fear, and affection, and after giving up their sinful mentality, in the case of hatred and fear, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, verse 30. My dear King Yudhishthira, the Gopis by their conjugal desires, Kamsa by his fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, and Vrishnis of Raj by their relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, Narada, by our Vedi Bhakti, have attained the mercy of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 132. Jiva Goswami's commentary. Because of the impossibility of regulating the feelings that arise spontaneously according to their own tastes, those persons filled with conjugal attraction and other emotions mentioned in the verse cannot be classed as practitioners of Vedi Bhakti. The following statement has been made. Therefore, by constant enmity, or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by all of these, or by any one of them, if a conditioned soul, however, or how somehow or others happen to concentrate his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same, for the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. In
So
this verse,
yeah,
okay.
so see, here this is yeah. So here I wanted to understand whether you all followed it. What here Jiva Goswami is trying to explain.
The Lord is impartial to enmity, friendship. And so if you're concentrating on him, even if you're concentrating him in such a way, the result will end up being the same.
Yeah. So there is the same and not the same also. So Lord is, of course, this is the magnanimity of the Lord, right? Even if somebody remembers the Lord and it is not favorable for the Lord, still Krishna awards the result of liberating them, right? That's for the reason, all the people who got killed in Mahabharata, they all got liberated, even if they were on the enemy side, or all these demon who came to kill Krishna, they all got liberated. So, but there is the uh, difference, the reciprocation, what happens, right? So the loving reciprocation, and those things will get clear as we read. So please continue, Mataji here.
In this verse, the verb yunjayat in the potential mood indicating possibility rather than injunction, which belongs to Vedic Bhakti. The meaning is thus: it is possible to concentrate on the Lord through enmity, devotion, fear, affection, or conjugal love, rather than one should concentrate on the Lord through enmity, devotion, fear, affection, or conjugal attraction. One cannot order a person to have these emotions, but then in the sequence of verses it is also said, therefore, one may become absorbed in Krishna by any favorable method. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 132. In the statement, the potential mood indicates approval. One may become absorbed in Krishna. Yatha in verse 274 means yathavat. Correspondingly, tatgatim means an appropriate form. Therefore, the meaning of verse 274 is many persons absorbing their minds in the Lord out of conjugal feelings, hatred, fear, affection, and devotion, attained according to their type of absorption, yathavat, as a suitable form, tadgatim. Among these persons, those with hatred or fear gave up their sins of impurity by the power of observing their minds in the Lord. The statement, however, does not apply to those persons with conjugal feelings, kama. They have no sin. The kama mentioned is not material. The supreme nature of the gopis, kama, is shown in the following statement. Since even Shishupal, who hated Krishna, achieved perfection, then what to speak of the Lord's dear gopis? Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 29, 13. This statement praises the kama of the gopis, showing how it's superior, even though in verse 275 it is mentioned alongside fear and hatred exhibited by people opposed to Krishna. The gopis with lust mentioned in verse 275 are understood to be the gopis in the state of Purva Raga, prior to meeting Krishna directly during earthly pastimes. The same applies to the Vrishnis. Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. One should not say, how can the Nitya Siddha devotees, such as the gopis, be described as attaining kama and other relationships, since those relationships are eternal? The intention is to show the state of Purva Raga and they experience during Krishna's earthly pastimes. The same applies to the Vrishnis.
Okay, so did you follow this? What here is being talked about here? About the Purvaraga and the earthly pastime and the Vrishnis.
I think that they are trying to explain like like why it was mentioned as Aurora. I think that is one part here in the last explanation. So because in the earthly past tense, it will show that even though they are eternal associates, but in the earthly past times, so it is showing us it is coming from the previous uh, impressions.
Yes. Yeah, it is telling that it is not something is the first time they're having this feeling. This is the eternal feelings which the gopis which they have for Krishna. So yes, from that is you can call it the impression. Okay, so it's an eternal feeling and relationship, and that's the reason the Purvaraga word is used here. Okay. Um, Jai Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Translation: because fear and hatred are not favorable, they are all rejected as modes of bhakti, affection, Shina, or the Pandavas. It is if it means friendliness, Sakya belongs to Vedic Bhakti because the Sakya is predominated by veneration. If Shina means prima or a stage of prima, it still could not be admitted here as a topic in Sadhana Bhakti. In the phase Bhakti Vayam, as we go, or as we the sages, Narada attain befitting goal by Bhakti. Bhakti refers to Vedic Bhakti. Jiva Goswami's commentary. Though many ways of attaining Krishna were mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse, only two among them, Kama and Sambandha, are accepted as cause of Rajamika Bhakti. This is explained in two verses. Narada mentions fear and hatred only to express Kamutra. How much more of how much more the persons performing real bhakti will remain, and not to class of them as bhakti. This is illustrated by the following verse.
Okay, so did we understand this part? Because when I was reading initially, this used to be confusing to me. That's the reason I'm asking. Did everybody is following what is being talked about here?
Can you explain it?
Yes, Prabhu.
Please can somebody explain Mataji or somebody in your own words? How do you understand?
So Prabhu, it's saying is it said here like fear and hatred are not favorable. So that these can't be considered in the modes of bhakti. Only prema, like sneha or main stage of prema. I mean, mostly like sadhana bhakti. I think Naraza is emphasizing here can come under um, what do you say uh, ragatmik raganuga bhakti.
So see, yes, you are trying to explain it, Mataji, but see what this verse is telling in Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Muni mentions six types, right? The six types, but then when comparing to Ragatmik, I said, okay, six can be considered the bhakti. Okay, the this is what Narada Muni is saying, but that's bhakti. The Ragatmika Bhakti is a special type of all the six. What will be considered a Ragatmika Bhakti, and that is where only these Kama Rupa and Sambandh Rupa is coming into the picture, right? Others are not coming. So Ragatmika Bhakti is being differentiated from the all the other type, and why it is being, and that's what Jiva Goswami is giving the commentary, that why it is even being compared. It doesn't belong in that category, but it's there to just to show the how elevated the position of the Ragatmika Bhaktas are, right? Just to compare and contrast that, oh, this is this is bhakti, but you see these are very special type of bhakti. It is not like amongst the normal type of bhakti. So that's the reason. That's what Jiva Goswami is saying here. Yes, Mataji here.
Inimical kings like Susapala, Pandreka, and Salva were always thinking about Lord Krishna, even while they were lying down, sitting, or engaging in other activities. They enviously meditated upon the bodily movements of the Lord, his sporting pastimes, his loving glances upon his devotees, and other attractive features displayed by the Lord. Being thus always absorbed in Krishna, they achieve spiritual liberation in the Lord's own abode. What then can be said of the benedictions offered to those who constantly fix their minds on Lord Krishna in a favorable, loving mood? Srimad Bhagavatam
Yeah, so see,
10:23.
so this is the differentiation. So what then can be said of the benediction offered by those who constantly fix their minds? So if just by enviously thinking they got liberated, then just see what will happen to the devotees who are favorably thinking about Krishna, and that too all the time, right? Okay, so here Mataji, read here.
By devotional service, one cannot achieve such intense absorption in thought of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as one can through amenity towards him. That is my opinion.
Mhm.
However,
Okay.
however, he makes this statement only to express the greedy and fear nature of his own body bhakti in comparison to the presence of strong emotions such as lust or enemy as a means of attaining complete absorption in the Lord. Among the means of attaining the Lord, which are filled with emotion, the relationship of enemy to the Lord, though condemned, is also considered by him to be better than bhakti filled with rules, because it causes absorption in the Lord. Vishnatha Chakravartita Course Commentary says, how much greater then must be the absorption caused by Kama Rupa Bhakti. The phase Tan Matya in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 11, 7, 127 means being absorbed in the Lord in the same manner that a lusty man who is absorbed in woman is called street Maya. Shina is explained as follows. Some may claim that the Shina or affection of Pandavas should be classed as Ragamika, since it is filled with friendly feelings of Sakya for the Lord, evident in their dealings with Krishna, nevertheless, because that affection is predominated by awareness of the Lord's powers, that Shina should be considered predominantly on the path of Vaidhi. Vaidhi sadhana leads to prema with awareness of the Lord's powers. This is thus not suitable for pure raguna sadhana. If the word Shina is taken to a mean general prema, it is impossible to follow such prema, since no particular details are given about action that are unique to such prema. Thus, it would not be fitting because of the lack of any unique feature to support. If one proposes the Shina means a particular elevated type of prema not mixed with awareness of the Lord, then it will end up being classed as sambandha rupa, relationships of thirst other than kama. But that is already mentioned in related or relation to the Vrishnis, actually in the inhabitants of Raja. The bhakti mentioned in verse 275, bhakta vayam vibho, should be accepted as vidhi in nature. This is because it is the only type of devotion left after enumerating Ragatmika, Kama and Sambandha, Vedi mixed with Shina, Pandavas, and rejecting Vaishya and Bhaya as Bhakti. It is said also understood to be Vedi Bhakti because the devotion of Narada was characterized by reverential worship of the Lord in his previous life. In the first two verses quoted, 274, five items are mentioned: lust, hatred, fear, affection.
Bananas.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Okay. In the first in the first of the two verses quoted, 274, five times are mentioned: lust, hatred, fear, affection, and bhakti. In the explanation of the author, six items are mentioned, corresponding to items apparently listed in verse 275: lust, hatred, fear, relationship, affection, and bhakti. This mention of six items is only in difference to the commentary of Sriha Swami or the Bhagavatam verse. Actually, the meaning of the last line of verse 275 should be from Sambandha, filled with affection. You, Pandavas, and the Vrishnis achieve the goal. Thus, there is only one item instead of two for both the parties, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Sam, Sambadha and Srina would then not be distinguished as separate items. This is according to Vopadeva. Thus, the second verse will have five items as in the first verse. This agrees well with the next verse in the Bhagavatam, where five types are again mentioned. Any of the five
Okay.
types of
Yeah, Mataji, okay. So see, this is little long explanation, and I'm not sure if some of you got confused, but in summary, what it is talking about. See, Narad Muni mentioned these six because he is telling that, hey, I am at the Vadi level, and compared to that Vadi level, even this inimical thing, right? The hatred and envy has the high level of intensity, so that I will consider just for the intensity, because here the comparison is of the intensity versus the duty bound, right? He's saying based on that I'm considering that to be higher, even though it's not favorable for Krishna, but I'm considering it to be higher. Then of course, as the previous explanation by Jiva Goswami, that those are not truly the Ragatmika Bhaktis, right? So that is again being talked about. And then there's a technical, like in this one verse, it talks about six, and the other verse talks about the five element, and is telling that, oh, those two are one and the same. And this word sneha, so which is being repeated a lot here. Where did it go? It was everywhere. Now it is own Vedi Bhakti. So you see, inferior nature of his own Vedi Bhakti. So Sneha is the form of, so I just wanted to bring that word. Where is that word? I can't see it. Sneha. This is Sneha. So Sneha is the friendship, it's the affection, right? So there are in the friendship also different words are used, and Sneha is considered to be deeper friendship. There is a deeper kind of affection, right? So this telling that, hey, Sneha is just not prema. It is not the level of love, but and it is impossible to follow such prema since no particular details are given about action that are unique to such prema. So here the sneha word keeps coming to distinguish it from the prema, because it is also high level of affection, but it is not inimical. Okay, so those are the some of the technicality which has been talked about. So we will Shiva Prabhu, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhu, yeah. Translation. When it is said that enemies and the dear friends of the Lord attain the same end, it means same end only in the sense that Brahman and the personal form of Krishna are one entity, in the manner that the rays of sun and sun are one. Jiva Goswami's commentary. It was stated in the verse 274, quoting from Bhagavatam, that those with hatred and fear attained the goal, Tadgatim Gataha, as did those with conjugal love and affection. The doubt may arise how an enemy of Krishna and a friend of Krishna can achieve the same goal. This verse clears the doubt. Priyanam refers to the Gopis, Vrishnis, Pandavas, and Narada. The example of the sun and its rays are given in the Brahma Samhita. I saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental bodily effulgence known as the Brahma Jyoti, which is unlimited, unfathomed, and all-pervasive, is the cause of the creation of unlimited number of planets, etc., with varieties of climates and specific conditions of life. From Samhita 540. Bhagavad Gita also says, Brahmano hi pratistitaham. I am the shelter of the impersonal Brahman. Pratit, Pratistita means shelter. One should also see the commentary of Sridhara Swami on the verse that is also suitable. If a person becomes highly qualified, he realizes the condensed form through the appearance of the Lord as Bhagavan with form and qualities. Otherwise, the person realizes the diluted form through the appearance of the Brahman with no form and qualities. One should understand that the effulgence could exist only if it has a foundation. Thus, even those satisfied with the realization of Atma become attracted to qualities of Bhagavan. If one is very inquisitive, one can consult the Bhagavad Sandarbha.
You see, so here, why this verse is so important?
To differentiate impersonal worship and personal worship.
Yeah, so here, because many times the argument happens, say, I can be inimical and then I will go back to Krishna. Yes, that's true that if we are inimical and we are lucky to be getting killed by Krishna, then of course we'll go back to Krishna. But then it differentiate where here going back to Krishna includes Brahman and the personal form of Krishna. It includes both the together, right? So there are three different level of understanding Krishna. Okay, one is Brahman, Paramatma, and Swam Bhagavan, which is Krishna. All this together is considered to be Krishna in that reference that they went back to Krishna. Okay, but they did not went back to Krishna as Swam Bhagavan. They went to the Brahman, right? So that is what is differentiating. It makes it clear that yes, they went back, but where did they go? If somebody is going for the deeper relationship with Krishna, that's not what they achieve. They achieve the liberation in the Brahman, not in the special form, the relationship with Krishna. So that's what it is talking about. All right. So maybe last few words. And Janani Mataji, would you like to read 279?
Yes, Guruji. ब्राह्मणी एव लयं यान्ति प्रयेण रिपुवो हरे केचित् प्राप्यपि sarupyabhasham majanti tatsukhe. Translation: The enemies of the Lord generally merge into the impersonal Brahman. Some of them, even though they attain semblance of a form similar to the Lord's Sarupya Bhasham, remains absorbed in the happiness of Brahman. Jiva Goswami's commentary. In this verse, the destination of Brahman for the enemies of the Lord is described. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Among the enemies, some merge into Brahman. Others, such as Shrigal Vasudev, attain form somewhat resembling that of the Lord, but remain merged in the happiness of Brahman rather than serving the Lord.
Continue, Mataji.
Tatha and translation. तथा च ब्रह्माण्डपुराणे सिद्धलोकस्तमसा परे यत्र वसन्तिः सिद्धब्रह्मा सुखे माग्ना दैत्याश्च हरिनाहत. Translation. Moreover, it says in the Brahmanda Puran, Siddhalok, the spiritual world, is beyond Prakriti. There, demons killed by the Lord and some sages dwell, merged in the happiness of Brahman. Jiva Goswami's commentary. The proof that the demons merge in the Brahman will be given in the first half of verse 282. The proof that some demons attain the planet of the Lord but still remain merged in the happiness of Brahman is stated in this verse. Thus, the phrase Tatha cha Brahmanda Purane, moreover, is used. Tamasa means Prakriti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Siddha refers to sages. The sages and the demons dwell on that planet of the Lord, merged in the happiness of Brahman.
Haldi Mataji, 281.
Translation. Those persons who most devoted to the Lord, who are the very form of prema and who worship him with intense, spontaneous absorption, attain the nectar of his lotus feet. Jiva Goswami commentary. This verse describes especially the supreme position of devoted gopis. The word Priya indicates this.
So see here, who are the very form of prema and who worship him with intense, spontaneous absorption, attain the nectar of his lotus feet. You see that our differentiation is happening, right? So before it's getting that okay, they got to Krishna, but there was no specificity. Now there is specificity. The devotee who are in prema, what they achieve, they achieve Lord's lotus feet. Means that they are in relationship with the Lord, and that's the differentiation is being made here. Yes, Mataji.
Translation. Thus it says in the 10th canto, simply by constantly thinking of him, the enemies of Lord attain the same Brahman that sages fixed in yoga worship by controlling their breath, mind, and senses. Similarly, we Shrutis, adopting a mode similar to the Gopis, and finally attaining similar bodies, will achieve the same nectar from your lotus feet that your concerts are able to relish because of their living attraction to your mighty serpentine arms. Srimad Bhagavata 10.87.23. Jiva Goswami commentary. Uh, the author matches the statement of this verse from the prayers of the personified Vedas in 10th canto with the attainment of Brahman mentioned in the first half of verse 279, and with the attainment of Lord's feet by Raga mentioned in verse 281. By the use of api twice, once in each half of the present verse, two separate pairs of persons with differing destinations should be understood. The enemies of the Lord attain the Brahman, which the sages contemplate in their hearts simply by remembrance of the Lord in fear or hatred. Striya here refers to the Gopis, as they are well known in this context. The Gopis attain the nectar of your lotus feet, the various types of sweetness filled with prema. we the we the Upanishads, adopting a mode of or emotion similar to that of the Gopis, samadrisha, are, and thus attaining forms like them, sama also attain the nectar of your lotus feet. The detailed meaning can be seen in the commentary at Srila Sanatana Goswami on the 10th canto called Vaishnava Tosami. Sorry. Furthermore, in the Brihad Vamana Purana, it is stated that the Gopis attained the gopi bodies for which they had prayed. In the previous verse, the attainment of Lord's feet also applies in general to persons who act with raga, though it directly indicates the gopis. The gopis mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse are these Kamarupa Ragatmika devotees, and the personified Shrutis who are speaking are Kama, Kamanuga devotees, those performing Raganuga sadhana following after the Kamarupa gopis. Similarly, the Vrishnis should be understood to be Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhaktas, and those who follow after them would be Sambandha, Sambandhanuga Sadhana Bhaktas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura's commentary.
Okay, so you can ignore it,
Nirvita.
Mataji. Yeah, so like,
Oh,
okay, so yeah, so see, here, what is the key takeaway? What it is being talking here?
this is about the who are gopis and how they attain that uh, raga. That verse is very intense, Prabhu. Uh, Kamatmika Bhakti is the intense bhakti where practicing which they attain the lotus feet of the God.
Yes, Mataji.
And also the
So see,
Vrishnis
go ahead,
and
finish.
their followers. All the followers also come under Ragatmika Bhaktas.
Okay, and why the Shrutis are mentioned here, and what is the role of Shrutis? What kind of bhaktas are they?
They are the followers of Vrishnis.
Okay, and So see
Vishruti
the
is adopting a more similar to the gopis.
sorry, what did you say, Mataji?
So similarly, we Shrutis adopting the same bhakti form of the gopis attain the lotus feet.
Yeah, so here it says the gopis attain the nectar of your lotus feet, which is a
Yeah.
serpentine arms, right? So they got the
Mm.
special mercy because there's a complete relationship with them, prema. We the Upanishad adopting a mood or emotion similar to that of the gopis. So they are like a Raganuga. They are following on the footstep of those bhaktas, right? So they are we the Upanishads. So these are the prayers from the Upanishads, Vedas, adopting a mood or emotion similar to that of the gopis and thus attaining forms like them, also attain the nectar of your lotus feet. The detailed meaning can be seen in the so blah. So basically, they are the so one who follows on the footstep of the Ragatmika Bhaktas, they will also achieve Krishna in the personal relationship. So that's the takeaway, right? So it's not that only the Raga, so far it's only talking about the Ragatmika Bhakta. That's the example we see. Then we saw the difference between Brahman and the people who were inimical and they also went back to Krishna, but then we saw that oh, they went back to a little, there was no personal relationship, right? Now it is now further is taking it further, is saying that okay, will the Raganuga Bhakta also get to the same relationship as the Ragatmika? Yes. Right? If we follow it with sincere heart, so Raganuga Bhakta will also get the same destination as the Ragatmika Bhaktas. Okay, of course, but relationship is different. One is Ragatmika, they are eternal. So there is always a differentiation. Even the one with the prema level, there are there are differentiation and distinction between the different level of premas also. Okay. So with that we'll end. I think there were 287, yeah, four, five more verses, but I think we have gone already little higher, so we'll resume on Friday. Okay, so we read up to 282. Okay, to finish up to 282. Okay, so any question, anything before we end the class for today?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, question, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, last verse commentary. So it was concluding saying like Gopis and Shrutis, like Ragatmika and Raganuga in the Kamarupa, and Vrishnis and other relationships. But Vrishni was told Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika, and other relationships are who are following them. They'll begin Sambandhanuga Sadhana Bhaktas instead of Raganuga.
So see, Varshini should be understood to be Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhaktas. Okay, so this Vrishnis are being given to differentiate them from the gopis and gopas, right?
Yes,
So they both love one, but they are the Kama Rupa and the Vrishnis are considered to be
Sambandha.
they both are Ragatmika but Sambandha Rupa. Okay, so that's the
Sambandha.
differentiation. And those who follow after them would be Sambandha Nuga Sadhana Bhakta. So Raganuga Bhakti is also the part of Sadhana Bhakti. Okay, so that's the reason why you see the word sadhana there. Okay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but the Shrutis were not mentioned like that. They mentioned as Raganuga.
Yes. So yes. So even because see, Kama Rupa, it is pretty high level, right? So even though it
Okay.
is coming under the from the differentiation perspective, Ragatmika Bhakti is coming in Sadhana Bhakti, but somebody who is the Kama Rupa, now there is a differentiation that they are not
Yes.
on the sadhana, they are at a higher level, right? So there's
Yes.
always these delineation, and that's the reason these words are used very carefully. Okay,
Yes,
so
bro.
good
Yes.
observation that why he is sadhana and why not in the kama rupa, why it's not kama rupa sadhana, because so one doesn't start from the kama rupa sadhana, right? Won't start with the kama rupa. That uh, if somebody does get to that platform, that is they will start with the raganuga. They are trying to build the relationship. They may have the aspiration that okay, I would like to be in the conjugal love, but that may be the aspiration, right? But then as they grow and this with the sincerity, and once they get to the level of bhava, then that's the time when it is revealed to them that what is their eternal relationship. Okay, and that in that relationship is start serving. Okay, so and that's the reason why specifically that word is not used.
Kamarupa cannot be at this sadhana level. So it Kamarupa
Yeah,
means itself like it is at the
it's
higher
it's
level.
very high level. Yes, absolutely, Prabhu. Okay. Thank you. All right. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.
Hare
We'll
Krishna.
meet on Friday. Please
Sorry,
join on
Prabhu,
time.
I missed the timing. I
No
somewhat.
worries, no worries. No, today everybody was late. There was nobody. I have to wait a long time before Preeti Mataji joined. Yeah, yeah. So yes, no worries, no worries.